Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the DKF 24, to the stream Market Data Products and Solutions. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Daniel Winkler. I'm working for MD Next, which stands for Market Data Next Generation. We have also a presentation this afternoon where we advise about market data management and also present some solution from our Echo partner system in terms of managing and make it more efficient. But in this stream, I want to hand over to Charlie Browne from Golden Source and Dr. Wolfgang Kugler from RSU. And they have the topic, they present the benefits of centralized market data.
Yep, many thanks for the introduction and welcome to everybody. As said, we want to talk about the benefits of centralized market data, also with the focus currently from a regulatory point of view. So I'm very happy that Charlie from Golden Source joined us. So RSU and Golden Source started the journey together now roughly 6 to 7 years ago. Building a common platform for banks for managing market data with respect to risk control especially. And therefore, I'm very happy that he can join us and give us a little bit more insight on this topic. So before we go to the details, small introduction to RSU. Usually our business is to make complex risks manageable. This is especially to our known products, which are based on the rating model side. And now, as said, since 5 years, we are already and also doing market data together with Golden Source for multi-client services. Standardization is for us state-of-the-art and very important to gain synergies and through the standardization and also to pooling the expertise in a cooperative approach. In general, we have currently more than 40 risk models, more than 40 customers. Our company has more than 100 experts in these different topics, 20 years of experience, and we did more than 100 audits from ECB or from BaFin. So that's in a nutshell from RSU. So I would briefly hand over to Charlie.
So good afternoon, everybody. As Wolfgang said, we have been partners with RSU for the last 6 or 7 years on this fantastic journey with them, consolidating market data for multiple customers on the same platform. I'm not sure if that's ever been done before, but it's been an amazing journey. Just a quick introduction to Golden Source. We're the largest independent EDM provider of cloud data management data services globally. We're data vendor neutral, over 100 data partners, founding members of the EDM Council. We're pass-orientated, fit-for-purpose solutions. We focus quite a lot on IP, market data IP, and in the slides a little later on, that's one of the topics I'll be talking about, how we can pre-package that IP into our standardized solutions. We're headquartered in New York with offices in London, Mumbai, Milan, and Singapore. We're fully cloud-enabled. Many of our projects these days are cloud-based platforming solutions. Okay, just a little bit more then about Golden Source. We're trusted by some of the largest financial services companies in the world. Like most financial software platforms, we break our customer base down into buy-side, sell-side, and other platforms. Starting here on the right-hand side with EMEA, you can see we've got some pension funds, some of the largest sell-side organizations in the world. We've quite a lot of growing quite rapidly in Europe on the sell side with our centralized market data solution, including clearly with RSU. And a lot of what we focus on the sell side is around curve surfaces, pricing derivatives. On the buy side, it is more pricing for securities, pricing for net asset values. and solutions that address some of the latest reg that's come in on the buy side. We've also got some of the central banks and some of them, a lot of exchanges, and really interesting that 3 central banks have chosen and trust us to centralize and validate their market data for them.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie. So coming back to the topics, there are kind of a lot of decision factors which are important to do the centralization for market data. We are focusing in this talk on the first 5 topics here. So number 1, of course, the regulation based on the post-Basel III data quality requirements. Then, of course, just a look back to the good old times, the fragmented market data infrastructure, which is not capable to fulfill all these requirements. As a third point, then, the centralization for fair value controls, which is important to fulfill all the requirements, valuation of time series, and last but not least, there is also the cloud migration, which is now an ongoing topic in the banking industry. A little bit behind, of course, the other industries, but due to all the regulatory requirements we have here, it's just where we now catch up with the other industry sectors in itself. So there are a lot of other points here. Briefly, a couple to mention. They are not as important as the others for this presentation, but they are still there and are important decision factors.
Yeah, so as Wolfgang said, we've done jointly a number of market data projects, a lot of them at this stage, and there are common themes that come through in terms of best practice and what you need to kind of look for and address when you're centralizing your market data. So as Wolfgang said, these are 12 points. We're focused on the top 5, but on the sell side, visualizing curves and surfaces for derivative pricing, ability to have an efficient process for handling suspects for market data that flows through the IP. I mentioned earlier, accelerators, pre-packaging that so that you don't have to build everything from scratch. Integration with security master, integration with in-house valuation libraries is really key. Transforming the market data as it flows through. Market data cost clearly is a driver for any of these centralization projects, and the ability to manage high volumes of time series for the market risk use cases is also one of those decision factors.
So coming to the first point, the regulation post-Basel III. So maybe someone in the audience of my age still remembers the times in 2007, 2008, where the financial crisis kicked in. Then after that, the FSB created by the heads of the government, the Financial Stability Board, and then, of course, all the banking regulations, which came up with Basel III, like the Mark II model, the FRTB, BCBS, IPV, independent price valuation, stress testing, and then later on, of course, also the FRTB reloaded, where we had the need for a fundamental revamp of the trading infrastructure, which is based on the McKinsey report 2018. And then last year, the ECB stakeholder meeting, meaning that radar, the data lineage, data governance, and golden source of data is still an important point, and where also the big banks are lacking a lot of transparency, and where a lot of new requirements will pop up in the next year to fulfill the requirements concerning governance and data lineage and transparency for the usage of the data. On the other side, we have the buy-side regulation, where we from RSU are not the experts currently, but maybe at a later stage we also cover that. But here, Charlie.
It's just interesting to note that after the crisis, as Wolfgang said, you had all of this Basel III regulation, IPV and FRTB and everything else, but almost kind of directly in parallel, the buy side and the investment management community, which really never had a lot of regulation, it came in. It started coming in 2018, 2020, I think generally led by regulations in the US, SEC 2A5, SEC 18F4. Australia, we have SPS 530, and in the EU, we have IFR, IFD regulation. And similar kind of things are happening. Loading prices, validating them, data lineage, governance around valuation control, governance around valuation processes and risk processes. It just seems to have happened 3 decades after everything happened on the sell side.
Yeah. So all in all, we see that the requirements are still not fulfilled for all of these things, and new requirements are popping up. And if we slightly remember how usually in the good old times a market data system may have looked like, we had the 3 big departments. We have risk, front office, and the valuation, the NAVs, and it was a lot of spreadsheets, data accounts, terminals, Access database, and nearly nobody really understood at the end from where the data was taken and to which system the data was flowing and who was responsible for the data quality. So in principle, regulatories and the industry itself does not tolerate this fragmented infrastructure anymore, because nobody could answer somehow the question, show me the results and what is the basis for this kind of results. So this kind of infrastructure, if you want to call it an infrastructure, is of course no longer sustainable with all the regulatory requirements we have currently in place. So that's why it's important to have this centralized database of prices in the middle, prices and rates. So we really do not distinguish between prices of securities, rates for curves, but everything which is important for the one side for risk, so for market risk, for example, the value at risk calculation, stress testing, and all these things has to be centralized and validated on a central place in order to fulfill the requirements and give the proper data quality and also the transparency from where the data is coming from and which kind of data is used with respect to your risk calculations. Of course, if you have this kind of centralized system, you can also use it in front office. They are usually a little bit faster and more demanding with respect to speed to get the market data to the systems. But for quant developing or modeling, pre-trade analysis, or for flash P&L, that's also very beneficial to have here a centralized solution in place which delivers all the necessary data for these calculations. On the other side, the valuation, NAVs, Charlie, you did a lot on that topic, I think.
Yeah, so I used to work quite a lot on those IPV valuations in generally, and that was maybe 10 years ago now. And those processes, IPV, bid-ask, prudential valuations, which was just coming in at the time, fair value, IFRS 13, generally sat outside the market data system, spreadsheets, access databases, data kind of fed in from ad hoc locations. What we're seeing generally with these centralization projects is for efficiencies, these processes now are moving central. You really don't need to have position data, quantitative calculations for many of them. They're purely kind of functions of the market data. Therefore, they can sit centrally in the market data system. So most of our projects these days involve some form of centralization of the fair value controls. It's not just about centralizing and validating the market data.
Yeah. As said, there are a lot of benefits there. Some of them are also highlighted on the right side, and nice things are also that you only have to do your download of data once a time. If you see the slide before with all the fragmentation, you have multiple requests to different vendors. So also the topic which Charlie mentioned in the beginning, the cost efficiency is also a driver here to centralize all the requests you have here in place.
Yeah, this is really just following on from the point earlier. If you have your market data centralized, you can also centralize fair value controls. 4 examples of kind of valuation-related fair value controls here are IPV, which is really just testing that your trader marks, your front office marks, are aligned with the market and independent sources. Most of your positions may well be valued at mid prices. You cannot exit them at mid. You can only exit at bid and ask. So there's a bid-ask process associated with them. Again, what we're seeing is that bid-ask process has been centralized. Prudential valuations, a regulation that came in 2016, ad hoc initially, spreadsheets. Two of the recent projects that we've been working on are centralizing the market price uncertainty and closeout cost aspects of that. And finally, IFRS 13, which is categorizing fair values into liquid, less liquid, and completely illiquid, level 3. The rules around that are being centralized now and allocating the liquid government securities to level 1 and building in fair value processes for the level 3.
The other point which you mentioned is, of course, the processing efficiency in half. As you may know, usually you have, during a day, 100,000, 200,000 prices. And all of them, let's say 98% of them are good prices. Everything looks proper. But you still have, let's say, 2% or 2,000 prices left, which need different kind of treatment. So here, also based on the tight window you have for the end of day calculation of your stuff, the automation, meaning the mappings, proxy interpolations or derivations for, let's say, half of these 2,000 instruments which are still left to be treated manually. It's very important and can only be done if all your data, the proxies and all what you need for this kind of automatic interpolation is in one place. Then you're still left with 1,000. So, and you have to treat them somehow in an efficient way, very manually. And therefore, if you centralize all this stuff in one nice application, in one market data platform, your filtering, your corrections, and all the 4 eyes approval, which has to be done in, let's say, 25 minutes, are only possible if it's really centralized and the UI and all the software behind acts in a fast way, and also for the visualization to see the things in one look, how it looks like, is very important. So the solution and best practices here.
Yeah, really, I think I've mentioned most of these already, but if you do these projects enough, you see common themes. You can pre-package a lot of the configuration, the best practice into files, into standardized configuration. And that really leads into the cloud vertical there, because when you can pre-package that, it lends itself to CI/CD processed, pre-packaged configs and being cloud agnostic and going with your preferred cloud provider.
So that's the last point which you mentioned before. Yeah. The banking industry is doing a slow catch-up, depending on the appetite of the different banks, the political statement there, and also, let's say, how fast we want to proceed with that kind of stuff. So we are now in the position to do this kind of market data on a cloud technology. It's cloud ready in that kind of sense. It's really depending on the customer if you want to move to clouds which are on-premise, so private clouds, which some of our customers prefer, or the experience also from Golden Source itself that also public clouds can be used.
Yeah, so I would say probably the majority of our customers these days are moving to public clouds. As Wolfgang said, banks were late to the party with this stuff. Data was seen as sensitive. Regulators were reluctant. It's almost flipped now. The regulators actually want to see you with cloud strategies. And that pre-packaged configuration, the CI/CD processes that we talked about, lends itself to being agnostic to the individual cloud providers. It's also probably worth pointing out that market data there isn't any kind of typically sensitive information. There's no customer information, no positions. So again, it kind of lends itself to having a cloud strategy.
So summarizing all these 5 points up, it's quite obvious that only with a centralized market data system, on cloud, on premise, or whatever, you're at the moment able to fulfill partially all the regulatory requirements. And building that up is really necessary for all the people which don't have it in place, because the requirements which will come in the future will be more and more based on this centralized approach. So. Many thanks. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, Wolfgang.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Thank you, Charlie. Any questions? Here we go.
Yeah, Charlie, you mentioned because there was no client data in the cloud, that actually, I think your point was the security of it. Is that right?
Yeah, generally speaking, it's, back in the 2010s, there was a kind of a reluctance to take customer data or position data, which is really exposing your client's information, and put it into the cloud. Whereas market data is just information, prices on publicly traded securities. There's no kind of information embedded in there that's specific to your customers. So it's I guess it lends itself more to we really don't have to talk to our customers and have a discussion about transferring that their data from our premises to the cloud.
That's right. So it is the inference that the cloud isn't as secure as
So they No, yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. And the theme of that slide was that some of the comments back then, if you pulled it out from a Bank of England report, we're reluctant. We think that banks are or should be hesitant to move it because of the sensitivity of that information. And that seems to have been turned on its head, and that there's some comments now for some of the regulators almost saying the opposite, that you're probably putting your systems and your data more at risk by not having a cloud strategy. Okay.
Any further questions?
Yeah, based on this solution, we have different kind of validation rules inside the system. So we can have here, for example, tolerance checks and all that stuff, so that we pre-configured, if you want, or really by yourself configured different validations which are acting on the raw prices, and at the end give you some kind of, let's say, golden price at the end, which can be used as a validated price within all your risk systems. So, and then you're free to choose your validation schemes you want to do. The number of rules is freely configurable. And yeah, for that, usually we have a very tight window, which we are doing currently in 10 minutes with 150K prices. And at the end, you have the visualization for your risk department, which sees 99% are green. And then you have to take the last % manually, which dropped out of this validation rules. Yeah, as you wish. So there's a preset you can choose. We can also configure that on the best practices we learned from our current customers. Or you are very free to choose your parameterization for the validation as you want.
Any more questions? I think this is it. Again, thanks, Wolfgang, Charlie. And by the way, this is all recorded, so you can see the presentation again. Thank you for your time and enjoy the conference.
Thank you.